I think a lot of us had a lot of high hopes for the Nike GP Challenge 1, especially because it was the heir apparent to the Nike GP Turbo, one of mine, and I know a lot of yours, favorite tennis shoe you've ever put on your feet. But the update that we ended up getting in the Challenge 1, I know did not meet a lot of your or my expectations of the shoe. So in this video, I want to show you the specific fixes and the specific things I would put in the GP Challenge 1 to bring it up to the level, I think, of the actual heir apparent to the GP Turbo. Let's get into it. Now, to me, it's not the weight of the GP Challenge 1 that I have a problem with. It's the distribution of the weight of the GP Challenge 1. These things were so bottom heavy, right? That the uppers just were disproportionately light and uncontaining compared to the heft on the bottom of the shoe. Just pick them up, you can feel it. Now, a lot of people were experiencing that disproportionate weight and lack of containment in terms of toe jamming, right? In terms of cracked toenails, or just people having issues jamming into the front part of their shoe. That was the biggest complaint that I saw, and that was also one of my biggest complaints when I made the original review. Now, that's not hard to remedy, right? You know, number one, I thought the tongue of the GP Turbo, let me see here. I thought the tongue of the GP Turbo was way too thin. You know, if this is the thickness of the tongue, honestly, it probably should have, you know, you could at least make it a little bit more padded toward the top, right? And then make it, you know, almost like the GT Cut 3, where the top of it has a lot of bunting and padding, and then you can narrow it down into the forefoot. But if you had a little bit of a longer tongue, right? So if the tongue goes to right here, maybe even just a couple more millimeters actually does a lot in terms of the tongue of a shoe when you're, you know, talking about a little contained area. But if you've got all that bulky padding here under the tongue, right where your ankle meets it, your foot's not going to want to jam into the front of the shoe. That's a really quick, easy fix for that. Now, also, you could just put moleskin or padding underneath of the tongue of the shoe too to bulk it out, but it'd be nice if, you know, we got that done for us. Now, number two, you can also make the forefoot of the shoe a little bit more accepting to the toes. Now, I know this is a big complaint among a lot of players that they would like the front part of a lot of their shoes to be a little bit more forgiving, have a little bit more padding. Where it is in the GP Challenge 1, number one, you've got the rubber here on the top, which is great for dragging or sliding, and I think was an actual upgrade from the GP Turbo, a little bit more, you know, dragging and sliding protection because the outsole does meet the rubber up here, so that's good. And then there is a little bit of a toe cap here that goes across it, right? There's a little bit more of that kind of clear TPU right here. That's good. It's just when you look underneath of the shoe, there's nothing protecting your toes against that little harder surface there. So just a little bit more padding in there would go a long way in these. Now, speaking of all that padding, number two is, if you look at the height of the heel counter right here, all right, it is not very tall. You could make the heel counter a little bit taller and subsequently maybe make the ankle collar too, maybe just a little bit higher. Keep the bunting and padding, I liked that, but just lift it a little bit to allow your foot to sink into the shoe a little bit. Remember, if it's just a little bit of upper, right, and you've got all of this mid and outsole to lug up, it's gonna start to feel like the React Vapor next, where it's gonna feel like you're trying to lift an anvil with a rubber band. So just, you know, increasing the height a little bit. You don't have to make it a mid, just give you a little bit of a bigger lever arm against the mid and the outsole. Now, speaking of that mid and outsole, I guess I'll switch colors here, but speaking of that mid and outsole, now the midsole to me, I have to confess, I do like the speed board. I think this is a pretty cool idea, having a semi-constrained shank in there. And I think it is long enough and broad enough that it's actually doing something. So honestly, if you want to go from that really thin, full-length, flexible shank in the GP Turbo to this, I think that's fine. The thing I would do, though, is, number one, why are you putting such wafer-thin zoom units in the rear and the forefoot when, you know, this is the Tatum 2. This is a basketball shoe from Nike, if you don't know, but if you're one of the tennis-only viewers of this channel. But in the Tatum 2, this is a little bit more of a budget-friendly shoe, and this has got full-length Air Strobel in it. So tell me you couldn't, in the tennis space, give us full-length Air Strobel and then the speed board on this, and then, hey, you want to put the zoom in the forefoot, maybe you want to cut off the Air Strobel in the rear foot, kind of like the KD 16 and 17 in the basketball space, and then put a 4-foot zoom area unit. You could do that. Or just maybe go from, hey, we did the double stacked zoom air in the GP Turbo, let's give you full length Air Strobel in this one with the speed board. You can always take, you know, the stack of foam down in here a little bit and keep the shoe a full length Air concept shoe. I think that's what everyone liked about the Turbo. It's got full full-length air in it. So yeah, maybe we try something a little bit different in this one. I mean, no, double stack Zoom Air or Air Strobel is not going to be the most, intimate ground feeling shoe, but the GP Turbo never was. That was not a shoe that had a buttery, soft ground feel shoe, right? It was a bouncy moon shoe, right? You could get from doubles alley to doubles alley in a half a second. But if stability was a concern after changing from full-length Zoom Air to full-length Air Strobel, then you could always take a page out of the budget model sibling to the GP Challenge 1, the GP Challenge Pro, and then make the flanges on the forefoot and the rear foot just a little bit chunkier. Here in the Challenge 1, these flanges are just little rubber clips, which, I mean, it's fine. But the Challenge Pro, which is like the teardown version of the GP Challenge 1, it's the more budget-friendly version, has better flanges on it. You could just take this geometry of midsole, throw the Tatum 2 Air Strobel unit in there, plus a speed board, and all of a sudden you've got a super laterally stable shoe that also has a lot of pop from that speed board and a lot of that full-length air cushion that we've wanted from the GP Turbo, successor. And there you go. You probably got a shoe that a lot more people would at least be talking about and would at least be giving props to Nike for at least trying something different, right? So, like I said, the GP Challenge 1, it's not, it's fine. It's not my least favorite shoe, and I don't even think it's that bad of a shoe. It's just coming from the Turbo, I think there could have been so much more done to really make that shoe a true update to it. People tell me in some of these videos, well, then the shoe would be more expensive. Not really, because the two features I would like most in there come from the takedown version of the Challenge 1 as well as one of Jordan Brand's more budget-friendly shoes. So Nike's already got the technology. They've already got the materials. They don't need to do any, they don't need to invent anything new, right? We're not trying to go to the moon in the 60s. I think you just have to take the materials that you already have and use them in a way that is going to get people talking. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. You think I'm right? Think I'm wrong? What changes would you make in the Challenge 1? If any, is it your favorite shoe out there? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you do want to see another Nike shoe that I think does have the potential to really skyrocket to the top of the basketball, pickleball, and potentially tennis space as well, the Nike GT Cut 3, if you want to see what I do to fix that shoe, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam. I'll see you somewhere in the Sneakerverse.